Month over month, we track key data points to understand in real time what's happening in the market from a boots on the ground perspective. We do this to better advise our clients on both the buy side and the selling side. Ralph, why don't you speak to what the trend lines are? I'm going to give you a topic and then ask you to speak about that specifically, if that works for you.
For sure.
Good with that?
Yeah, I'm totally good with it.
All right. Your first topic is
Go, Ralph.
price.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, there's an old saying, the trend is your friend. And I think that really depends upon whether you're a buyer or seller in this market. Certainly, if you're a seller, the trend line definitely currently is your friend. Looking at the trends from a high level, as we get into it, I think we're going to see three things. Prices are starting to rise month over month, and we're seeing that across all trend lines. Number two, we're seeing a tightening of inventories, and we're seeing property selling at a much quicker rate. And number three, again, might be still too early to stand up on the top of the mountains and yell that we've seen the bottom, but the trend lines are definitely supporting that. So that's really when we talk about data, we like to look at it from the big picture and then start to zoom in. And so going back to your first question, we're going to put up right now a month over month prices. So we're going to put that right up on the screen here. And this is for the entire GTA. Now, one of the things that's really interesting is that typically in real estate, because real estate is seasonal, we look at year over year to get a better understanding of what's happening in the market. However, when we have extreme situations like the one we've had over the last year, where you've had a 400 basis point increase in interest rates, that becomes a lot less meaningful. And really what we start to look at on a pricing standpoint is not month to month, but year over year. So you'll see the media purporting, prices are down 14%. But if you look at this chart here, what you'll see is that across all property classifications, from detached to semi-detached to townhouses to condos, prices are starting to rise. And it definitely looks like, as a through line, we probably saw the bottom in January, and now prices on all asset classes across the entire GTA are starting to tick upwards. Again, very different from what you're hearing in the news. If you look at the spread between semi-detached and condos, it's still quite wide, which seems to indicate that we should see more price activity in the low rise as people move from condos, two-bedroom condos, into starter homes.
Interesting.
Very cool. All right. Can we talk a little bit about months of inventory?
Well, I thought you'd never ask, Ian. This is probably, I would say, the number one statistic that we track month over month at Fox Marin. And the reason is because it gives a real finger on the pulse of what's happening in the market. So months of inventory, MOI, as we affectionately call it at Fox Marin, basically is a stat which shows if you took everything that's currently on the market and presume that nothing else came to market at the current rate of sales, how long would it take everything to sell? And so if you look at chart number 2 on the screen here, where we show months of inventory, you can see from January a dramatic drop from 3 months of inventory, which was a high, all the way down to 1.47 months. So that's a huge drop. And again, that's an indicative of prices having to rise because there's just very little inventory given the current rate of sales. So to give you a little bit of context here, in April 2022, so a year ago, we were at 1.64 months of supply. So we're starting to sell at a faster rate than the height of the market, which coincided with interest rates just starting to rise back in April 2022. So this is really, really interesting to see this type of a drop of months of inventory, and it's really indicative of what we're seeing boots on the ground in the market.
Mm-hmm. And that's a great segue into talking about days on the market, right? The limited inventory.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that,
Ian.
Ian.
You guys are on today.
Yeah, I'm feeling Ian today.
I'm in the zone. I'm in the zone.
We're connected. I think we're in the zone.
I like properties on MLS. I'm flying. I am moving and shaking.
Amazing.
Okay.
Well, I got my
I'm really
eyes.
just
I got my eyes locked on you. If you look at this chart here, you'll see two numbers. One, listing days on market, and the other one stands for property days on the market. And so both you can see a dramatic drop in how long listings are on the market from 41 days down to 27, and property days on the market. Essentially, what that means is if a property doesn't sell and relists, how long is a specific property on the market for? And so, just to give some of our listeners and or watchers of our video podcast here some context is that it's 2 to 4 months is considered balanced. So anything above 4 months is a buyer's market. So this really will indicate two really important things. One, properties are selling at an expedited rate since January, a dramatic change in the pace of the market and how fast properties are selling. And secondarily to that, very dissimilar or different from what the media is purporting, is we are very heavily in a seller's market by definition. And so I think it's really important to have this context as well to understand exactly where we are today and most likely where we are going to be for some time to come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And last on my list here, I was going to ask you about transactions.
Yeah, for sure. So
what would you like to tell us about that?
We're going to look at this last slide here. I hate boring people, including myself, with slides. But again, you can see a thorough trend line here where you can see transaction activity basically bottoming out December 2022 and January 2023 in all asset categories from detached all the way to condos. And you can see now the amount of transactions taking off as well. So we're seeing more transactions. We're seeing properties selling much, much quicker. We're seeing very little inventory coming to market. And we are seeing prices starting to edge up. So very, very interesting times in the Toronto market. And I don't think anybody would have thought in December that this is where we'd be into early April.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I've got a laundry list of buyer clients that are frustrated, having a really hard time, and we're actually seeing things pick up where we used to wait until the weekend to go see things, and now it's like, no, when you see this or when I spot this, we've got to get there that afternoon, that evening, because it could be gone in a day or two versus having a bit more time like we used to.